Good evening. This is the DEFCON Warning System World Theatre Analysis, where we take a deeper look at global security developments, not just the high-urgency alerts included in our weekly strategic updates, but the background shifts, structural changes, and emerging trends that may shape tomorrow's risk environment. As always, this broadcast remains politically neutral. Our purpose is to analyze developments, not to advocate policy. We have 5 segments tonight, covering defense industrial expansion in the United Kingdom, delayed Russian weapons exports to India, a new Russian missile offer to the Indian Navy, evolving dynamics on the Korean Peninsula, and Europe's rapid acceleration in short-range air defense production. Let's begin. The United Kingdom is making one of the most significant long-term investments in its nuclear submarine industrial base in decades. Rolls-Royce Submarines has signed a capability-assured strategic partnership worth up to £400 million with engineering firms Assystem, Atkins Realis, and Frazer-Nash. The purpose is straightforward: boost the UK's ability to design and produce naval nuclear reactors for the next generation of Royal Navy submarines, including those intended for the AUKUS programme. Alongside the partnership comes a physical expansion. The Derby nuclear site, already a central node of the UK's submarine reactor infrastructure, will roughly double in size. The long-term employment boost, more than 1,000 skilled jobs, suggests this is not a temporary wartime surge, but a structural increase in output. AUKUS depends on sustained British and American industrial capacity, not just political alignment. The United States is already stretched supplying Virginia-class submarines while recapitalizing its own fleet. The UK expanding its reactor capability helps stabilize the AUKUS pipeline, reducing future bottlenecks. It also signals that NATO is preparing for a world in which undersea competition in both the North Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific will be more intense. Long-range cruise missiles, quiet diesel-electric submarines, and anti-submarine drones are proliferating, and the alliance appears to be adjusting for a much more contested subsea domain. This is a slow-burn development, but an important one. Next, to India and Russia's long-running S-400 air defense deal, a headline contract signed in 2018 for 5 regiments. The system was originally expected to be fully delivered by 2023 or 2024. That timeline has now slipped significantly. After discussions between Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and Russia's new Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, Moscow has reaffirmed that the final 2 S-400 units will not be delivered until 2026 and 2027. Indian media outlets, including The Economic Times, report that the delay is explicitly tied to Russia's own wartime needs and the constraints of sanctions. There is no indication that India has reduced its demand. In fact, New Delhi has signaled interest in additional S-400 units, but Russia has not committed to any accelerated schedule. India is in the unusual position of being a major purchaser of Russian equipment while simultaneously deepening ties with the United States and other Western partners. Slowed Russian deliveries highlight the strain on Moscow's defense industrial base and raise questions for any country with pending orders for Russian systems. For India specifically, it means a longer period in which its air defense modernization remains incomplete. And for Russia, it signals a prioritization of domestic air defense over export commitments as the Ukraine conflict continues. This delay does not shift the regional balance immediately, but it is one of those background indicators that shows how military supply chains are being reshaped by prolonged conflict. Staying with India, another development, Russia has reportedly offered the Indian Navy the 3M-14E Kalibr-PL submarine-launched cruise missile. This missile, with a range of roughly 1,500 kilometers, can be launched from a standard 533mm torpedo tube, meaning it can be fired from India's existing Kilo-class submarines without major structural modification. If New Delhi proceeds, Kalibr would provide long-range conventional strike capability from the boats India already operates. It would effectively bridge the gap between India's current BrahMos-equipped surface fleet and its future indigenous submarine-launched cruise missile project. This would significantly extend India's long-range precision strike reach, giving it options against land targets deep inland, not just coastal areas. Second, the timing is notable. Russia is compensating for delayed S-400 deliveries by offering India access to other advanced systems. Moscow has always used arms exports as a diplomatic tool, but wartime pressures mean that offers like this carry an element of triage. Russia provides what it can supply now. Third, long-range SLCMs, submarine-launched cruise missiles, are important in regional deterrence. China already deploys similar capabilities on its own subs. If India adds a 1,500-kilometer strike option, the underwater power balance in the Indian Ocean begins to shift. This is not an immediate crisis driver, but it does contribute to the long-term evolution of strike networks in Asia. Turning to Northeast Asia, South Korea's National Security Advisor, Wi Sunglak, has stated that Seoul will not scale back or suspend joint military exercises with the United States in order to encourage North Korea to return to dialogue. In other words, drills are not being used as a bargaining chip. At the same time, the new U.S. national security strategy, released under the Trump administration, notably omits the long-standing goal of denuclearization of North Korea. This is the first time in roughly 20 years that the phrase has been removed, although the document still emphasizes deterrence and close cooperation with allies. From this, two signals point in the same direction. South Korea is maintaining a firmer baseline posture. Seoul has, in the past, been willing to adjust exercises for diplomatic reasons. That appears less likely now. The US is reframing its diplomatic language. The absence of denuclearization may reflect a recognition of North Korea's effective nuclear weapons status rather than acceptance of it. It could be a shift in expectations, from attempting to reverse North Korea's program to managing and deterring it. Together, these changes suggest the region is settling into a more static strategic environment, fewer illusions about negotiations, more emphasis on deterrence, and less willingness to trade military readiness for political gestures. That stability is not necessarily safer, but it is more predictable. Finally, Europe's air defense landscape is accelerating rapidly. Rheinmetall has announced that production of the Skyranger short-range air defense system, often used against drones and low-flying cruise missiles, will expand beyond its current facility in Switzerland to new production lines in Germany, Hungary, and Italy. Germany is preparing a multi-billion euro order for several hundred Skyranger units. Austria, Denmark, and the Netherlands already have contracts in place. Short-range air defense, or SHORAD, has become one of the most critical capability gaps revealed by the war in Ukraine. Drones, loitering munitions, and small cruise missiles have shown how quickly an army can be overwhelmed if it lacks mobile close-in protection. Europe's decision to expand Skyranger production across multiple countries is an attempt to close that gap, and fast. It also indicates that NATO expects drone warfare to become a permanent feature of future conflicts, not a temporary phenomenon unique to Ukraine. A distributed production model across several countries also adds resilience, reducing the risk that a single industrial bottleneck could slow deliveries. This is another example of a long-term shift, Europe moving from a peacetime procurement pace to something closer to sustained wartime output, even without being at war. These are not crisis alerts in themselves, but they form the understructure of global stability or instability. Defense industrial decisions, delivery delays, new missile offers, changes in strategic language, and accelerated air defense production all shape the environment that future strategic updates will respond to. We will continue to monitor developments across the world theatre and assess what they mean for long-term global stability. This is the DEFCON Warning System. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay safe. Good evening.